Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan Souza. I'm one of the senior investment managers here at Sharewise, and we're here this morning with David DeTata. Now, David is the Managing Director of Strategic Energy Resources. He's been kind enough to lend us his time and expertise this morning regarding the company. So, as always with the typical format, we are going to have a presentation from David just updating us and introducing us to the company, and then we're going to open the floor to questions. So, if you have any questions you'd like to ask David after his presentation, please submit them through using the Q&A function on Zoom, and then I will ask away. David, thank you very much for your time this morning. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Ryan, and welcome to all of the Sharewise investors in the platform. And I hope I can introduce not just the company, but myself, and give you a background of some exciting news that the company has leading into the end of this year and into the next. So we'll get straight into the preso. There we go. Ryan, we were all good on this one?
It is just all loaded. Thank you, mate. Looks good.
Perfect. Thank you all. Once again, thank you for taking your time to be introduced to what is, I think, a compelling junior exploration stock on the ASX. We are Strategic Energy Resources, and we are searching for Australia's next major discovery. I'm going to give you an overview of the strategy, our current projects, the news flow, but really this is an opportunity for everyone to be introduced to myself and the projects that we currently have, and give them a better understanding of why we exist and how we go about our exploration, because I think we offer something different to a lot of the juniors on the market, and I hope I can grab your attention in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So before I get onto the corporate stuff, it's really worth understanding exactly why we exist and why our current shareholders see value in being involved with the stock and the people that are involved in the company. To break down our exploration strategy, which then defines our structure, it's quite easy. We've taken the letters of SER and we've broken them down to exactly the three areas that we bring to an exploration company to find value. The first of them is in how we search. We limit ourselves to projects that we can get our hands on 100% that are undercover, eliminating the opportunity of buying projects or flipping between different commodities or regions. And our shareholder base is very firm that we will look for projects that we can add value to from a zero entry point. And that is identifying greenfields projects undercover that have predominantly have a tier 1 or high potential of being an economic deposit. So this takes a science-driven approach to exploration, but also leverages off some of the work that a lot of the majors do in identifying genuine tier 1 deposits in Australia. So we're Australian focused. The special part of what we actually do post that is the explore function. Any area that is underexplored or undercover requires an understanding of geophysical processes and soil sampling processes. They're going to add value to a project. So we're taking a project from a zero starting point, as in zero cost entry point, and then we go on and add layers of geophysics or geochem and understand what's actually happening deep below the surface. We can then present that opportunity to a major or a funder, or in some cases, get to the point where we have conviction enough to drill the project. And that's where we're looking at an investment return on that project. So to say we're undercover explorers means we're looking for deep projects that have genuine scale and potential, and project generators, and that we develop the projects from a zero cost entry point. So then when we do look at the return on our investment at the end of every project, or as we joint venture or sell a project, we're looking at how we can then fund our next level of exploration. Before I get to the map and all the projects and the reason we have what does look like an overcomplicated number of projects, give an overview of our current investment strategy and some of the major shareholders involved. So 3 years ago, we had an introduction through DAT Capital, who's a well-known Melbourne-based investment firm, and they sit on our register now around 11%. And they continue to back our strategy as long as we continue to add value to greenfields projects right through to the point where their decision to resolve or drill. Capital structure, we currently sit as a junior exploration, very junior, share price 0.6, 4 million market cap with around 1.3 as of December. As any junior, we're always looking to raise and always looking for new investors to come in, understand the story and partner with us into the future. Our executive and technical team reflects the three areas of our strategy. So we have competencies in the search, so that's identifying greenfields projects and early stage projects. the Explore, geophysics, and also some of the consultants we use at the high-end geology, and also in a transaction focus. And you'll see Tony Gu, a board member now from Jack Capital, is really helping us in finding ways to return our investment on some of the projects that we've been involved in. As I mentioned, the Australian map, we are only Australian focused. It looks very crowded, but what it does, it recognises that there are some inherent risks in greenfields exploration, and some of those are very early on. You'll notice the Bulimba project, which we announced just in this month. That's a project we've been looking at since 2020. We finally were able to put an exploration license across it in 2023, and only now in 2025 can we actually get on ground and do things. So there are a lot of projects, but they are at the various stages just because of some of the roadblocks that are in place to get any exploration underway in Australia. So we have to have constant news flow and projects at different stages as we move along. Today, I'm going to focus on our Queensland projects and one of our more topical New South Wales projects. I'm more than willing to take questions at the end from any other projects that you can see. The first project I want to focus on is our Isa North Copper Gold project. With all of our major greenfields projects, they have a common link, and that link is if you follow the major fault that we believe hosts a significant mineralisation, in this case here, the Mount Gordon fault, trace that back towards areas where it gets closer to surface, that's the mineralisation, you'll find major discoveries. And in this case, we're going to use the Capricorn copper by ASX 29 metals, and there's 64 million tonnes of 1.8% copper as our reference point. We follow the Mount Gordon fault, undercover, we get our land package where currently we are exploring. This isn't a new idea. We picked this project up on Newcrest. They did drill 5,000 metres worth of diamond drilling at the prospects of Lorraine, Augustus and Newmire that you can see on the map. And that was prospective for tier 1 deposits that Newcrest would see as worthy of putting into production. What they did find is a number of near misses, but what prevented them from going any further is their ability to secure land access. So for us, we saw this as an opportunity. We know the majors are interested in the region. We know it has the potential for them to put 5,000 metres worth of drilling in it and a whole range of preliminary geophysics. For us, the advantage is going in and testing that Nadu target that they were simply not able to get on ground and test. So in picking up this project, we've rapidly advanced the target areas you can see on the map. And what we're looking for there is something different to what's already been drilled. So we've identified through some geophysics we've done internally, as well as being involved in a research project, which is also a core competency of what the company can do, establishing high levels of research projects to deeply understand the projects we're involved in. And what we're presenting to the market now is the next stage of exploration of this project, which is to start drill testing those targets that are on the project that are different from what has already been tested. The probability of intersecting the same thing as Newcrest did, if we went and used the same targeting rationale, is high. So what we're looking at is moving away from what's already been tested into something slightly different in the region. And we've identified 4 major targets that are worthy of drilling. Currently, where this stands, we have drill sites cleared, we have everything ready to go. What we're currently waiting on is news of whether there's some funding coming through the Queensland government, which would help push this project along a little faster. There's a CEI grant in the making, which we hope to understand whether successful with in the next month, and that'll help partly fund some of the exploration program. So we have 4 compelling targets at depth, anywhere between 300 and near 400 metres of depth, but every one of them stacks up in terms of geophysical expression and the size of the potential prize should they be mineralised. We know that this is an IOCG, so iron oxide copper gold story, because we're on a major magnetic fault as it heads undercover. That's the reason 29 metals are able to target their deposits. But we also know that there's an emerging sedimentary copper story. And the reason we know that is because when we secured the project, and you'll see here on the map, Isa North, we were all alone. There was no other major explorer in the area, and there was a little number of tenement uptake. Since grabbing the project, we have since surrounded by Fortescue in their hunt for tier 1 copper deposits, and also Anglo American. And because the main magnetic structure isn't captured within our tenement, we know that what they're searching for is not an IOCG, but sediment-hosted copper. And so we're watching and waiting to see how exploration efforts extend either side of our tenements, knowing that the shallowest portion of any deposit, if there is sediment sediment-hosted copper would reside where our project exists. Interesting one to watch. We're hoping to have some announcements on that project very shortly. I mentioned we have a joint venture with Fortescue. This is our Canobie project, and in 2023, Fortescue finally came to the table and put a set of terms towards the company regarding a farming joint venture agreement. They recognise the potential for this project to house a tier 1 copper deposit. As with all majors, they're not interested in anything smaller than something that represents a true tier 1 opportunity. Some of the metrics around the joint venture, you can see most of the metrics are around a minimum number of basement meters. So while the numbers 4 million on exploration in the first stage and then in the second stage seem, well, compared to our market cap, they're well above it, but they seem trivial. In the end, the basement meters are what counts, because we recognise that a discovery is only going to come at the end of a drill bit. So to put it in perspective, within 6 months of them signing the agreement with us in 2023, we drilled 3 holes, some of them a kilometre deep, but we only hit half of the first stage 1 metric because it is basement testing. What we can expect in the coming year, very rapidly this year, when ground conditions improve in North Queensland and everything dries out, Fortescue have embarked on a major geophysical survey, which involves gravity and MT, and we're looking to drill later on this year. The project itself is not just a copper project. We know that the size of the deposit Fortescue are chasing, but prior to Fortescue becoming involved, this for us was actually a lucky squid project, which is a high-grade gold project. So there's plenty of mineralisation across the tenement boundary. The focus is on copper. In the event that exploration shows that the target is not big enough, or in fact there is not mineralisation intersected at the levels that FMG require pushing it forward, we have a backstop, and that is chasing up some high-grade gold. You'll see in 2008 and even through to 2019, we tested an area within this project and we found some high-grade gold hits. So it's immediately a backstop in the event that there isn't the scale or the opportunity to present itself for Fortescue. So exciting project, undercover north of Ernest Henry. And we have a look now at a project which I've already mentioned about some of the roadblocks that are in place for greenfields exploration within Australia. This is the 2020 project that we first had looked at and engaged with the current tenement holders at the time, which was Newcrest. Fast forward to 2025, we actually have the project in our own hands after 5 years of watching and waiting. And this is another project that shares the same similarities to our 2 other Queensland projects. We're in a major fault, in this case, the Gambulla fault zone, and you can see the Mangana and Red Dome deposits, 2.7 million ounces of gold along the same structure. Now, in that 5 years of watching and waiting, we've done our own homework just to ensure the prospectivity of the region. So we've done a number of desktop studies, one including a large-scale lithospheric study, just to identify and confirm that we're actually in the right region, because after spending 5 years, we'd hate to have the wrong area or just miss out on it. And we have confirmed that, and we are now at the point where we can rapidly progress this project as an intrusive-rated gold project with a multi-million ounce scale potential. If any further reading, you can head to the announcement that was put out earlier this month relating to the initial targets that we're looking at. These targets were generated by the previous explorer Newcrest, and they didn't simply push along with this exploration focus fast enough before pivoting away from this area. High potential in this region for intrusive-rated gold, as I said, at the multi-million ounce level, and we look at getting on ground as quickly as possible this year. Again, Northern Queensland weather conditions, this area was subject to flooding not long ago. So once that clears, we'll be up there middle of the year. Just significantly advance this project with a soil geochem survey, targeting some of the magnetic remnant features, which are the guide for looking for intrusion-rated gold systems up in this area. The last project I want to touch on was one that was the major focus of the company last year, and that backed on to some significant results that were put out by Australian Gold and Copper, just 7 kilometres north along the Achilles Shear. This project dovetails off the work that was done by Australian Gold and Copper. The return intercepts, as you can see, 5 metres of 16 plus and significant silver and lead and zinc grades. This project shares the same similarities in that it sits on the same Achilles Shear that runs through their project area into ours. but our project is less advanced. So last year, after a combination of soil sampling surveys across the project area, we identified that we really needed to understand what's happening at depth, so we had to run a drill program. That drill program consisted of over 25 holes of RC and return levels of mineralisation that were significant for us to continue in the project, but weren't at headline numbers that AGC had recorded. Bearing in mind some of the work that's continued to develop their project and increase the exposure of the South Cobar region. So with that preliminary data on hand, we had some understanding of what the preliminary soil geochem reflected into the deeper drilling, and exploration efforts are continued on this project as we start to uncover more potential targets moving forward through soil geochem surveys, followed up by some extensive MT surveys, IP surveys that allows us to target greater levels of mineralisation within the project area. We have the firm belief that there are levels of mineralisation located within the project area that are worth pursuing. For us, now we have the knowledge of what a soil geochem combined with an IP survey and drilling look like, and we'll have an announcement in the next week to show our next steps on this project. So I had to put all of it on a page, what news flow can be expected, because we know any potential investors want to get in at the start of a drill program. And clearly the best time to be a part of a new exploration success is at the start of a drill program. At our Horizon North project, everything is set, everything is ready. What we're waiting on now is how much, if funding, we're going to get from external agencies, being the Queensland Government, to push forward and rapidly advance this project. Sort of quantum numbers we're after is somewhere around maximum funding, which is 250K, which would go a long way to putting in the first of a number of drill holes at the project. We do have to wait for sites to clear out so we can get on ground and do that. So we are looking in the next quarter to get involved in that one. And then we'll follow from there, just all depending on the number of holes we're able to raise funds for and able to target. This year, FMG have been very forthright in rapid exploration program at Canobie after quite a year last year, and already programs are in the works to begin gravity and MT again once ground conditions improve, which we hope in the next month. We get on and run those geophysical surveys with a view to trying to get on ground and drill targets this year. A lot of these are depending on ground conditions in Queensland, but we've had successful seasons in the past where we've been able to easily get on ground and drill anywhere between 3 and 4 deep diamond holes in that field season. Bulimba land access is the key for us. After waiting 5 years, we still need to sign those land access agreements. Granting of a tenement does not then give the explorer the right to get on ground and explore, it gives them the right to then enter into land access agreements, including native title. We're hopeful of pushing those through pretty quickly and then getting on ground and delivering some results to the market about some soil sampling that we have already started to put together the plans for. At South Cobar, there will be an announcement out shortly about a geophysical modelling from a IP survey that we've just completed, and that'll give us our next generation of targets at the project area as we move through to hopefully drilling later on this year. Very busy second half and into 2026 for the company. A lot of it relying on drilling, which is exploration success hopeful, and we're hoping to put something in front of investors very shortly of a program of works and also some further announcements relating to each project in the short term.
David, thank you very much for the presentation. It looks like there is a lot of exciting advancements going on in your direction. So we'll just open up the Q&A now. If any participants have questions they would like me to ask David, please submit them through using Q&A function on Zoom. First of all, I've got a couple. Obviously, it appears there are a whole lot of bigger players that you guys are heavily involved in. The question for me is realistically, where do you think juniors lie in a holistic role in a bit of an exploration space?
Great question. The juniors traditionally provide that first groundbreaking exploration. So we look at what SER is doing. We're taking the risks that a lot of the majors sit back and don't actually do. A lot of the success comes from juniors, and I think anyone would understand that the majors are very good at operating mines and getting to the point where they put them into operation, and then it's all about cash flow from that point onwards. Okay. So their attention's really not on genuine greenfields exploration. And we've seen some of the projects I've put forward. One, we're in a joint venture because we had the ground on a view that with Fortescue on the view that this is prospective, and we've delivered enough information that allows them to make a decision on whether or not to continue or whether or not to joint venture into a project. So I think that juniors are critical in this market in putting together an exploration package and a data package that majors then can look at and say, I can run with this. For us, the Canobie project in each hole is very expensive, at $400,000-$500,000 per hole. And for a junior, that's simply just not possible.
Yeah.
Raise that money and keep going back to the market, knowing that each drill hole provides information, but it might not provide that stunning intersection to re-rate the company. So I still think there's a play for juniors who are genuinely looking at exploration. And I think in order to attract the major, you have to have a clear strategy and you have to have a clear focus. And not just flip-flop between different commodities and different jurisdictions, because they are looking, and from our feedback, I can tell you they are looking at genuine explorers who are looking at a size and scale of deposit that would then be taken to the next step by them.
Okay, well, appreciate the exploration there. Now, obviously, you did mention throughout the presentation, obviously, I saw that you guys have around a 1.3 or 1.3 or 1.1 sitting in cash, as well as looking for a max around 250K from the Queensland or from one of the state governments. Now, obviously, it appears you might need further capital in order to explore all of the options on the table. What's the funding environment like for juniors holistically at the moment, and kind of more specifically for you guys?
Broader perspective, funding for juniors is very tough.
Yeah.
In what is back into 3 to 4 years now of limited attention by retail investors, and when I say that is retail set the price for any capital raise, in that it's really theme focused, and for us, we've been a solid copper gold focus, where now we're actually starting to get some awareness, because we do have a project which is gold. Again, that took 5 years to get to that point, but copper I think is starting to turn, but it's very difficult within Australia to raise unless you have that intercept that presets the market to say, yes, we can continue with. So for us, it's very tough. We're trying to partner with majors and hopefully find some funding from them. As I mentioned, the Evolution project that we have up on this screen here at Cow, we're looking at the end of a 3-year option deal, which in September we'll understand if they proceed with the option, then there's funding that will come our way to the tune of $1 million. So that goes a long way to funding to the next phase. But really, it's about grabbing the market attention. I think if you haven't got a gold project that's ready to go, or it's got numbers, it's going to be very tough. For us, any juniors always come raise, so we will probably look at that in the short term to get us through, to provide enough chances of having a genuine discovery when we get on ground and drill.
Okay, gotcha. We'll appreciate that one. Now, you did just mention, obviously, that you've got a couple of, what appear to be joint ventures on the table, and none of you guys have 2 currently. What are really the benefits and associated issues with kind of further and larger joint ventures?
In securing further joint ventures?
Well, potentially securing further joint ventures, or the joint ventures that you currently have. What are the benefits of those, as well as obviously, potential downsides?
Yeah, sure. Well, benefits, first of all, the Canobie joint venture, we're the operator. So there is an operator fee that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Now, for some investors, they'll look at it and go, you're giving away a project. But for us, the endpoint is a 20% on something that might be held by a major to the point that they have conviction to go through to put into production, which is a pretty compelling story. And I think if you look at any company that has been able to take a project themselves from a discovery all the way through to putting it into production, those shareholders at the beginning are diluted greater than 80% anyway by the time it actually gets to the end point. Yeah. So for us, there is, and our shareholders, there is a value in getting that exploration done by a major once we've delivered a data package to them, a compelling story. So Canobie is that compelling story that FMG were able to take hold of and move forward. Some of the downsides of being involved in joint venture is you don't get to dictate news to the market. The last year was a very quiet year at Canobie because a lot of the geophysical modelling gets done at their pace. And then when they're ready to go, it's a knee jerk and we're straight back into it. So this year we're looking at rapidly moving on that project. But again, there's investors that have looked at us the last year and said, well, you've got the joint venture. If there's no news flow, then there's no activity, then there's no interest, and they're probably going to give it back to you, in which case you can't afford to push forward the project any further. And that's not the case with that one. So that's the downfall. Yeah. And if I have a look at also the second joint venture we have with Fortescue at Mile Creek, that's another example where we signed the joint venture in 2019. and it took 4 years for native title. And once that's done, there's 4 years again. Investors look at it and go, "We sold the project. There's nothing left in it for us." But there's news flow to come, but we're not in charge of that, and we can't proceed at our pace. We have to sit back and wait for the big brother to come along and dictate to us how fast they want to explore.
Okay. All right, we appreciate that clarification there. We'll just keep it now to some questions we've had submitted. The first one is, can you hear how David and the team are choosing to allocate exploration capital, given that there are so many projects on the books?
Sorry, I missed that.
So the question asks is, what is your strategy when it comes to capital allocation, given there are so many exploratory projects on the books?
Capital allocation, yeah, understood. As you'll see, this does look like a busy slide, and I think if I had to work through each project, you'll see the reason why we can have so many projects. And look, just briefly, we have that search, explore, resolve focus, and each project gets to that resolve phase, and we have a clear strategy from the board what we're going to do with that project as the next step.
Yeah.
Also look at the Cow project, as I mentioned, that's in an option agreement with Evolution. We picked that project up in competition with Evolution. It was a competitive bid. We were outbid. We were then knocked on the door by Evolution and said we want to be part of it. So that project we've held for a couple of years has cost us nothing. So it might look busy, but the upside is $1 million if they go ahead and go through the next stage of exercising the agreement. So that's a zero outcome.
Yeah.
Old Creek, zero. Canobie, zero. Isa North, that is a resolve phase. We'd love to entertain a joint venture partner at any stage moving forward, but we have to be real that we have to move the project forward. We are convinced that that project is worth drilling in our own right, so we'll go ahead with it. But if tomorrow we get a call from a joint venture partner, absolutely. That's the next step. So other examples, things like Ambergate, that project is a dormant heavy mineral sands project that's firmly in the resolve phase, and we put an announcement out just last month saying that we're entertaining options on that to sell that project. So the conviction stage is, and the most expensive stage of a project generator is actually that drill phase, and we hope to have a resolve when it comes to drilling for each of those projects.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So another one I've got here is, participant asks, when do you envisage a time frame for the next capital raising? Also concerned about dilution considering current share price.
Absolutely. We're looking at short-term options to open up a capital raise to existing shareholders currently. So that's probably but we have a number of triggers that we're waiting on, as I mentioned, the Cal outcome that will hopefully leave us short of having to do a capital raise. Dilution comes with any capital raise, and yes, the share price is where it is, and we can't change that. All we have to do is put a compelling investment focus through to the next round of investors, so our current shareholders want to maintain where they're currently at, or we can entertain new shareholders. And having such a large proportion of the register, they really dictate the price.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks for that one there. Last one I've got today is, a participant asks, what is the status of Ionic shares?
Ionic is, we've been involved in Ionic since 2014. Ionic was a spin-out company from SER a long time ago. That company is, we are still involved in an investment in Ionic. They're an unlisted graphene technology company based in Melbourne. And we've been involved back and forth with those guys. I think they've got some announcements hopefully coming in the next 6 months about where the next stage is, and that's really all I can say.
Okay, well, thank you for that one. Well, David, that realistically wraps everything up. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with before we close it out?
No, I'd just like to thank shareholders for those shareholders that are involved in the company for logging on and getting an update, and also to any potential shareholders always available to take a call or an email, further discuss the project, and I hope we at a minimum add this to your watch list going forward. Oh,
brilliant. Thank you very much for your time and energy this morning, David. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again as always. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Thank you.